Hello and welcome to our School at Home class in English Grade 10. We are in the first quarter of our set of lessons, and I hope everybody will delight in learning today with lesson number 13, expressing insights and drawing generalizations and conclusions based on the material viewed or read. Family is one of the basic foundations of society. Without it, we cannot build a community or a society. As the fundamental unit of society, the family is entitled to respect, protection, assistance, and support. Each member of a family experiences challenges like what we are experiencing during this COVID-19 pandemic. But how does each member show his help in overcoming this challenge? Mostly, every member shares his ideas and makes decisions that can help the family overcome this challenge. The COVID-19 pandemic has affected and taken so many lives today. Every family is struggling to the effects caused by this pandemic, physically, emotionally, economically, and even financially. Most families experience hardships of their day-to-day living, beginning with the provision of their basic necessities. As a member of a family, or as a citizen of your own country, what are your strengths that help you save your family or your country during this challenging time and help you bring your family closer together? We all know that we can generate different ideas from a particular material, especially when that is something enjoyed and experienced by most of us. Today, let us talk about expressing insights and drawing generalizations or conclusions about a material viewed through a poem posted on social media that went viral. Speaking of poem, let me refresh your minds first of what a poetry is and how can poetry provide insights as you experience it. Let me start by providing you things that you experience in reading poetry. Poetry can give you insights into yourself that you never knew existed but always wanted to understand. There is no greater sadness than not knowing one's self-worth, but there is no greater power than complete understanding of one's identity. Poetry can give you that power. Let us witness what is happening in the world by discussing a particular poem showing a great realization caused by the virus COVID-19, which was written by a man named Tom Roberts. But before we read the poem, let's unlock two of the most difficult words that you may encounter in the poem. First is the word snuggle, which means settle or move in a warm position. The next word is hindsight, which means understanding of a situation or event only after it has happened or developed. Now, let us read a material posted on social media that went viral. The poem entitled The Great Realization by Tom Roberts. The Great Realization by Tom Roberts. Tell me the one about the virus again, then I'll go to bed.
But, my boy, you're growing very sleepy thoughts about your head.
Please, that one's my favorite. I promise, just once more.
Okay, snuggle down, my boy, though I know you know full well. This story starts before then, in a world I once would dwell. It was a world of waste and wonder, of poverty and plenty, back before we understood why hindsight's 2020. You see, the people came up with companies to trade across all lands, but they swelled and got much bigger than we ever could have planned. We'd always had our wants, but now it got so quick. You could have anything you dreamed of in a day and with a click. We noticed families had stopped talking. That's not to say they never spoke, but the meaning must have melted and the work-life balance broke. And the children's eyes grew squarer, and every toddler had a phone. They filtered out the imperfections, but amidst the noise, they felt alone. And every day, the skies grew thicker, till you couldn't see the stars. So we flew in planes to find them, while down below we filled our cars. We'd drive around all day in circles. We'd forgotten how to run. We swapped the grass for tarmac, shrunk the parks till there were none. We filled the sea with plastic because our waste was never capped, until each day when you went fishing, you'd pull them out already wrapped. And while we drank and smoked and gumbled, our leaders taught us why it's best to not upset the lobbies, more convenient to die. But then, in 2020, a new virus came our way. The governments reacted and told us all to hide away. But while we all are hidden, amidst the fear, and all the while, the people dusted off their instincts. They remembered how to smile. They started clapping to say thank you and calling up their moms. And while the car keys gathered dust, they looked forward to their runs. And with the skies less full of voyagers, the earth began to breathe, and the beaches bore new wildlife that scuttled off into the seas. Some people started dancing, some were singing, some were baking. We'd grown so used to bad news, but some good news was in the making. And so, when we found a cure and were allowed to go outside, we all preferred the world we found to the one we'd left behind. Old habits became extinct, and they made way for the new, and every simple act of kindness was now given its due. But why did it take a virus to bring the people back together? Well, sometimes you've got to get sick, my boy, before you start feeling better. Now, lie down and dream of tomorrow and all the things that we can do. And who knows, if you dream hard enough, maybe some of them will come true. We now call it the Great Realization. And yes, since then, there have been many. But that's the story of how it started and why hindsight's 2020.
What is the background of the writer of the material? Before the pandemic, Thomas Roberts read his poems to crowds around London who, he confesses, were often more interested in what they were drinking than what he was saying. Now, hunkered down and out of work, he's found a far more attentive audience that stretches around the world and includes people who haven't yet reached drinking age. How did his material become viral? Robert's poem, The Great Realization, was released on YouTube on April 29 and has been viewed tens of millions of times. It has also been translated independently into multiple languages, including Arabic, Hebrew, German, Spanish, French, Italian, and Russian. A simple rhyming tale read as a bedtime story, it takes on heavy themes: corporate greed, familial alienation, the pandemic, and somehow comes up with a happy ending. Set in an unspecified future, the poem looks back on pre-pandemic life and imagines a great realization sparked by the scourge. Let's try to have a deeper understanding of what the poem wants to tell us. Let us look at the following materials or pictures and then lift the stanza from the poem read, if it is needed, that matches the given pictures. Material number 1. Very good. We noticed families had stopped talking. That's not to say they never spoke, but the meaning must have melted and the work-life balance broke. What do you think the stanza or the picture shows? That was a very good observation. This shows what families do before the COVID-19 pandemic. It clearly states that even families are together, they are still apart because of technology, too much work, and other activities that they are being busy of. They tend to fail balancing life's work. But what happened when the virus came? Let us see the next material or picture. Material number 2. Good answer! But then, in 2020, a new virus came our way. The governments reacted and told us all to hide away. But while we all are hidden, amidst the fear and all the while, the people dusted off their instincts, they remembered how to smile. How will you react to the picture and to the given stanza? Wow, you really are excellent! The virus made more people realize that even there is fear of death, there's still a reason to smile. Just like in families, if they will help and support one another, they will surpass this challenging moment. Just like in a country, if all families follow the government by staying at home, it will surely save lives. Material number 3. Why do you think the little boy has to ask the question in the first 2 lines in this stanza? But why did it take a virus to bring people back together? Well, sometimes you've got to get sick, my boy, before you start feeling better. What a great answer! People or even families should experience problems or challenges like this virus in order to bring them back together. This also makes them stronger and become better people. This will also make them realize how important life is when they are with the people they love. The material or poem entitled The Great Realization captivated the message of what was life for the people before the virus came and what was life after it came. Showed that the way people lived before is far too different from what they are living during this COVID-19 pandemic. Taught them a lot of lessons and realizations about life, family, and work. These are just some of the many insights and learning we can draw from the poem. Clearly, the poet has meaningfully delivered his message, like the line that was once said by the 9th UN Secretary General, "Now is the time for unity." Additionally, the poem of Tom Roberts can attest that as he inspires a lot of people around the world to work, help, and support one another during this pandemic. Let's move forward to what extent does the meaning of the poem will reach and its possible effects on the future. Try to read and analyze the following stanza by answering the given question. What do you think the author suggests in this stanza? And so, when we found a cure and were allowed to go outside, we all preferred the world we found to the one we'd left behind. That's right. The author suggests that people would choose to adapt to the new normal way of living if there will be a vaccine and the government would lift the lockdowns and allow people to go outside again. People will be more careful than before. How about this stanza? What does the author imply? Now, lie down and dream of tomorrow and all the things that we can do. And who knows, if you dream hard enough, maybe some of them will come true. That was a good answer. The author points out that there is no harm in dreaming of a better tomorrow. There is great possibility that all these dreams will happen in the future. Better things can happen even at worst times. To wrap everything up that we have talked about in this lesson, let us always remember that poetry can give you insights into yourself that you never knew existed, but always wanted to understand. There is no greater sadness than not knowing one's self-worth, but there is no greater power than complete understanding of one's identity. Poetry can give you that power. With the help of poetry, people can express their emotions or ideas about a lot of things. It can also be a way of inspiring other people, like what Tom Roberts did with his simple bedtime poem to a little.
Do you want